Hi, this is Aaron Wilson, and it's time for organized team activities. Wanted to preview some things I'll be watching for at the OTAs. Keep in mind, OTAs are a scaled-down practice. There's no contact, there's no hitting, but we do get to see the personnel groupings. We get to see how some of the players look together on the field. We get to see C.J. Stroud throw a football, and we get to see Nick Caley run his offense. So very excited to watch the OTAs because this is really the first draft of history. That's what we call journalism, when we get a chance to watch the whole team. And rookie minicamp, obviously, not a lot we could take away from that. We made some observations. A lot of that had to do just with the physical prowess, the size of the players, the athleticism, what they look like, what people were saying about them, what they had to say about themselves as they were initiated into the NFL. But now rookies are paired with veterans, and so we'll see some of the fruit of the labors of the past few weeks as they worked out without the cameras around. But now we'll be there and we'll be watching. So, I want to start with some of the real hot-button issues I feel like we're going to be talking about at the OTAs and beyond because they're going to affect the entire season. So let's start with the aforementioned Nick Caley. Nick Caley is the rookie offensive coordinator for the Texans, and he is a first-time play caller. So we expect him to blend a lot of his influences, his background with Sean McVay from the Los Angeles Rams, where he was a tight ends coach and a passing game coordinator. His time with New England Patriots, where he was a tight ends and fullbacks coach, and previous to that, an offensive assistant, working for the great Bill Belichick, winning Super Bowls, and, of course, working closely with Cole Popovich, who is now the offensive line coach and run game coordinator for the Texans. And they were all influenced by Josh McDaniels, who's been a very effective play caller and a head coach twice, once with the Denver Broncos, once with the Las Vegas Raiders, but still a highly respected offensive coordinator. So you look at what they have there with the background of Nick Caley, and it's interesting to see him put his personal stamp, his imprint on this offense. Coaching C.J. Stroud, empowering a C.J. Stroud. That's been discussed already by us a little bit, that C.J. will have more freedom than he did under Bobby Slowick to change the play, to change the protections. And I think that kind of autonomy is going to serve C.J. and Nick and the entire Texans offense very well because C.J. is a smart quarterback, and I expect him to do well. So since we're still talking about the offense, let's talk about the major topic of the offseason, this overhauled offensive line. So we're going to see, how do they line up? And this is my expectation. And we'll see if there's any surprises. Or maybe they shifted so much, or maybe they're not showing us the actual offensive line. We'll see. I don't think they're trying to fake anybody out, but I think they're going to try to just get to where they feel like is the best five on the field when they line up in the first game of the season against the Los Angeles Rams at SoFi Stadium. So what I would expect, and this is kind of my unofficial depth chart, left tackle is Cam Robinson. Cam is under a $14.5 million deal. He's been a starter for the Minnesota Vikings and the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I think that he is the best person, best suited to protect the blind side of C.J. Stroud at this moment. Maybe at some point, Ariante Ursary, the rookie, 6'6", 331, 5.01 speed in the 40, Big Ten Offensive Lineman of the Year from Minnesota. Maybe he becomes the best option. I think he is the future cornerstone at left tackle. But when will he take over the reins? When will he be the guy? Don't know. I think that there could be something of a, ramp up to when he becomes a starter for the Texans. If that's right tackle, great. If it's left tackle, well, you did make an investment in Cam Robinson, and ideally you have him on the field. Left guard, I think it's going to be Titus Howard. I think Titus is going to be a leader for this offensive line. To me, Titus is certainly one of the best five offensive linemen that the Texans can count on, if not arguably their best lineman just right now in terms of what he does there at the guard position. Center, to me, the leader is still Jarrett Patterson, and he'll be pushed by Jake Andrews and, to a lesser extent, Eli Cox, the undrafted rookie from Kentucky. But, yeah, what I like about Patterson, technically sound, smart player, long arms, good blocking technician, and, yeah, he's had some problems with power at the line of scrimmage, but overall, this is a good lineman that gives you a chance. And I like the communication between himself and C.J. Stroud. We'll see. Jake Andrews, how does he push him? He played for Cole Popovich at Troy University, and was, a good player, but obviously for the Patriots to waive him, it says something, that the Patriots, didn't want to stick with him under the new regime of Mike Vrabel. Okay, right guard, another contested position. And this is between my front runner is Juice Scruggs, and then there's Ed Ingram. Laken Tomlinson is a candidate. I think Laken is someone that obviously has more accomplishments than any of these linemen because he's been to a Pro Bowl, as has Trent Brown. So you have Trent, who's still working on getting healthy, all 6'8", 380 pounds of him, and he gives you a right tackle candidate. And for right now, Blake Fisher will be the right tackle, and I would expect him to line up there first, and then we'll see what happens. Can he hold on to the job? Struggled in the playoff game, as we've said many times this offseason, against Chris Jones. So another spot that I'm really watching, and I think this is going to be exciting to see, and I think a lot of fans are eager to see. So when they line up a wide receiver, what does that look like? Well, I think the first two receivers are Nico Collins. Obviously, he's the number one. He's the Pro Bowl guy. He is the go-to receiver for C.J. Stroud. Then you have Christian Kirk, who I think is going to be a great alternative for C.J., throwing underneath, throwing intermediate, someone that can run after the catch, just has to stay healthy. But when he's healthy, he's very productive. He's a very good wide receiver and gave the Texans a lot of problems over the years when he's playing for the Jaguars. So then you have, of course, Jaden Higgins, who they plan to implement into this offense. I think he's the third receiver. And then fourth receiver, Jaylen Null, his former Iowa State teammate. Great speed, probably the fastest receiver in this receiving corps, 4.39 guy, over 40-inch vertical leap, and someone that's a true deep threat, and also someone that you can just throw to him short and he'll run away from people, very elusive in the open field. Also the Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Year, so a great special teamer. I look for him on returns. So see how the receiving corps looks. So we talked about the offensive line. We've talked about Nick Caley. We've talked about C.J. Stroud, and we want to see, what progress he's made. He's had kind of a quiet offseason. That's good. That was by design. So whereas after his first NFL season, you saw C.J. going to Japan for a Goodwill ambassador trip, doing the sumo wrestling with Micah Parsons, kind of horsing around a little bit. Not obviously sumo wrestling for real, but just going to a sumo thing, kind of watching their training and watching Micah kind of get bodied by the sumo guys and then going to a baseball game. But point is, he was out of the country, taking some time for that. The NBA Celebrity All-Star Game, the Pro Bowl. So, also some other things like, of course, the Michael Rubin party. And doesn't say that CJ's not doing anything, but just watching tape all the time. He's got to relax, he's got to enjoy himself. But CJ's had a lot of time in the lab. He's had a lot of time with Nick Caley. They've been quietly working together, collaborating, getting to know each other, and building their relationship. And so far, it's off to a really great start, everything I've been told, behind the scenes between Nick Caley, C.J. Stroud. So defense, let's kind of flip to the other side of the football a little bit. And I think the defense is so good, we haven't been talking about it enough. Potentially elite defense, with the architect being DeMeco Ryans. And so the Texans have been great on defense for the last few years under DeMeco's direction. And now they hope it's going to get even better. And why? Because they added C.J. Gardner-Johnson. That's a real chess piece addition to the defense. 6 interceptions last year for the Philadelphia Eagles. Alpha personality. So we'll see how he meshes. I think he will mesh well. I've heard that's going well so far with CJ in terms of the relationships. He calls himself CD or CD Deuce, but obviously his given name is CJ. And, you've got him now lining up next to a ball-hawking safety in Kalen Bullock, who's now going to wear the number 2 jersey. You guys probably saw that. NFL jersey numbers has already designated him for that. And for now, C.J. Gardner-Johnson still number 23. And then, you've got an all-pro corner in Derek Stingley Jr., and you've got a really effective physical corner, second year, in Kamari Lassiter. So you've got as backups Jimmy Ward and others. You've got a great nickel in Jalen Petrie, a hard-hitting nickel that's the second highest paid nickel in the NFL under a 3-year, $42 million deal. They did a 3-year, $90 million extension in new money for Derek Stingley Jr., making him the highest paid in terms of new money at $30 million average. So great contracts, and the Texans have made a significant investment, obviously, in the secondary, and they expect high returns on those investments, which for me is the best secondary in football. So then looking at linebacker, we're looking at competition, so we'll see. I think Henry To'oTo'o will go out there first, and then you'll see Christian Harris, EJ Speed as they grapple for reps and try to get into the conversation to be starters next to Azeez Al-Shire, the green dot, the signal caller, the team captain, hard hitter. Saw him over at the girls flag football event. Good to see him catch up a little bit. Says he's had a good offseason. He's excited. He can't wait to get going. And then the defensive line, very, very talented unit. And to me, arguably the best pair of bookends in Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson Jr. And then they have great depth with Darrell Taylor. I think that he's an outstanding addition. And Derek Barnett. So a good 4 defensive ends. And even after that, they have other strong players that are competing for playing time and roster spots. Defensive tackle, expecting Sheldon Rankins and Tim Settle Jr. and Mario Edwards Jr. pushing them for playing time in a good rotation. So they've got a good group of defensive linemen there, and you look at how this all might wind up. Foley Fatukasi is also in that mix, still working to get to 100% healthy, and so it'll be interesting to see how this all winds up. So you've got Sheldon Rankins, Mario Edwards Jr., Foley Fatukasi, Tim Settle Jr., and then it'll be tough to make this team after them. You got Tommy Togiai, Junior Tafua, Kurt Heinisch, Keontae Hamilton. So a lot of depth in a defensive end. You've got Dylan Horton. You've got Casey Toohill. And you got Solomon Byrd. But I think Darrell Taylor, he's going to be heard from in this as far as an impact player. As a situational third down rusher, I see him making some noise. I think he'll do some great things. A lot of you guys have asked me, I've addressed this in another video. Joe Mixon, understanding is that he is banged up here in the spring, but I was told it's not a long-term injury, so we'll see. Does he do anything at the OTAs? Remember, they are voluntary, so we'll see. Do we see Joe Mixon out there? And I expect to see Dameon Pierce, if Joe Mixon is not out there, as RB1, with Woody Marks spelling him, the rookie from USC after transfer to Mississippi State. So a big opportunity for Dameon, a big year for him, pivotal year. Someone that is in a contract year, so a lot of opportunity for Dameon to establish himself here again after being a starter at one point and then now becoming a kick returner and number 2 back who has had his moments, including against the Tennessee Titans and New England Patriots. So some good opportunities for Dameon. And I'm not really worried about Joe Mixon at all. I'm sure we'll get a chance to ask D'Amico Ryans about that. But remember, there's no injury report until the first week of the regular season, so we'll see if they don't want to illuminate what is going on with Joe Mixon. But you heard it from me first. There is an injury. So he definitely has been in a walking boot at some point, and I was just told not to be alarmist about it. So if it was a big deal, if he is highly injured, and if I could confirm that, I would write a story. But that's not the information I'm hearing. I'm hearing quite to the contrary, that he is going to be okay. So hopefully that is the case. And we didn't talk about tight end, but we are going to keep looking at that with Dalton Schultz coming off a down year. Brevin Jordan, how much is he doing coming off the ACL? I know he's been running high speeds. We've seen all his videos, and he is encouraged. They're encouraged about him. And then Cade Stover coming off shoulder surgery in the offseason. Expect him to be out there. And then the rookie tight end Luke Lachey, the son of Jim Lachey, former Washington franchise starting left tackle, and Luke is a strong blocker, a big tight end at 6'6" and 251. Mason Tharp was not signed to a contract, as I've reported before. No rookies were signed after the tryout. They did add Kadrian Callaghan from Southeast Louisiana on a new deal, undrafted deal, after a successful tryout. And Miles Bryant was re-signed, gives them even more depth at nickel. He started in the playoffs for them, did a good job. I think that Miles gives them quality depth, and he's also a good special teamer. So that was a nice post-draft addition, just like Foley Fatukasi. The Texans are always looking for depth And having Fadukasi, having a Miles Bryant, it's a good opportunity to add players for the Texans, and they'll continue to look for depth. And I think if there are opportunities, I know a lot of people have asked me about offensive guard. I think they're going to stick with the line they have for now before they give these guys a chance. I'm talking about not just OTA and minicamp chance. I'm talking about when they put the pads on, when they start hitting, when they play in preseason games, before looking at, we've got to get an offensive lineman, barring injury, of course. But that is my official OTA preview. I'll give you my OTA observations. We'll, of course, have more content later in the week. Thank you for tuning in, for liking, subscribing, and watching. Until next time.